I found that it wasn't. They didn't really take things too seriously. Tracks were laid down separately, whatever drums. I found myself in the studio on my own quite a lot, and the reason for that is that once the basic tracks laid down, it before the vocals, it then gave me a cushion to work on, and so I was allowed to put harmony guitars down to build the tracks up one after the other, and then we'd have a break for that, and then Paul Di'Anno would come in and do a lead vocal part. So, for instance, mentioning Phantom of the Opera, it was something that I could really get my teeth into vocally and guitar-wise. And I remember spending all day and night, we were building the track up, and at the end of the day, it sounded absolutely massive. Unfortunately, Rod came into the studio and he said it sounded a little bit too much like Queen, only for the fact that I put all these vocal harmonies on and all these guitar harmonies, so, you know, it's their choice. And that was a learning process. I'm thinking, you know, perhaps I've done too much, perhaps it's gone too far, you know, you don't know how far to take it. So some of the stuff was taken off, so all the, you know, it was all good recording. But I found myself in the studio quite a lot doing that sort of thing. The band would either go home or they would be doing something else, and I found sitting with the producer and the engineer building the tracks up. But because I didn't know much about the band and what they were looking for, you get to a problem where you can do too much, and so, but at least it's there, it's on the tape, so that they can take off tracks that they don't need, and that's what they did. You know, you can always do too much and then they can take it off. If you don't do enough, then you know, it's empty. And that I found that through the whole album, vocals and guitar wise. You learn by, you know, if that's too much, then we'll take it back a bit. So they still wanted the raw, aggressive guitar work, but not too sweet regarding vocal harmonies, which is what I've always been into. We did the album, and then we were told by EMI that it was going to go top 5 through advanced orders. At the time, we were rehearsing. We were in Hollywood Studios in Clapham. We were rehearsing for the tour, and then there was the talk of the Metal for Mothers tour coming up, and that was going to be with the Prayer Mantis supporting. That's how we all got to know one another. But the very first gig, no, I can't remember. At that time, everything seemed to take off, and it just went absolutely potty. You know, you weren't at home. It was just a case of you never knew where you were going to be the next day. And when we went on tour and it came out, and they were cutting short the tour because there was another tour coming up that was more important. So really, it was one of those things that your feet never touched the ground. I remember one of the first gigs we did, I didn't realise how loud just playing with the band was. That's one thing that sticks in my mind, because bands that I'd worked with and toured with before Maiden, when you do a sound check, you have a sort of like equal balance on the stage with monitors and whatever. And you know, we're going back now, sort of like 30 years or whatever, but 25 years, but the equipment's got more sophisticated now. But years ago, it was just a mass of sound, a wall of volume. And I do remember just one of the first gigs coming out and thinking, you know, I can't hear myself think, let alone play, you know. And that's one of the things that shocked me. But you get used to it. As the band progressed, you get better equipment, you know. You know, going back to when I was sort of like 21, 22 and playing in front of 100,000 people with Status Quo, I was shaking so much I couldn't actually plug my guitar in. But the good thing about that was it was a great learning process, because I'd experienced that, I knew what to expect. So by coming out, although working with Status Quo, it's not a heavy metal audience, with a heavy metal audience, I didn't realise how fanatical and how mad they are, and they're right in your face. But the size of the gigs didn't bother me, because I knew what to expect. There was one thing that I found really amazing, was that because the whole audience are there to see that one band, and they're totally involved with Maiden, you could actually do anything and they would love it. You know, you could shout, talk, or anything you did on stage, they would be 100% behind you. So nothing surprised me gig-wise. It was just a learning process again, a big surprise with volume, and also just balance on stage. You know, it was so loud that you just got to think, where are we? And just got to concentrate all the time, because it was just crazy. You know.